Chairs No Wedding, episode number 470. Sue Ane Langdon, Mayberry Squad Car Rendezvous, part 2. Two Chairs No Wedding is brought to you each week by the folks over at WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Drop by over at Weavers. They got some great new t-shirts. You're not going to want to miss it. Go over to the What's New section, the new items, and you can check out the new shirts for 2018. There's a Otis, a Floyd, a bunch of people, an Indian Elixir. Man, there's just so much. And there's the fishing hole stuff. It's not shirts like pillows and stuff. It's Andy and Opie at the fishing hole. Head over to WeaversDepartmentStore.com and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. And executive producer of episode number 470 is Ted Womack. He is our Mr. McBeavy, Mr. Wheeler, whoever he wants to be, tribute artist. And it is, I really appreciate his help. Folks, you may not know me. I'm Alan Newsom, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting. I've been running the Mayberry websites and all kinds of stuff for years, since the 1990s. Oh, my goodness. Matter of fact, during this episode, you're going to hear an interview, part 2 from Sue Ane Langdon. If you didn't hear part 1, you might want to go back and check it out. But this interview was done back in 98, and you can see me. If you watch the video version of the show, you'll see me on stage as Floyd the barber. So, I know it's not the first thing I tell people because I want them to get to know me a little. I don't say, hey, I dress up like a barber and, I'm not actually a barber. I just play one on TV. Yeah, so that's, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But that's not the first thing I tell people, but it definitely comes up in conversation. So last week's episode was influenced for us by Randy Turner. Now you're going to get to hear from him this week as another This Week in Mayberry History. Great report he's going to do on the Dillards. So you'll want to stick around for that. But first up, we're going to hear part 2, which is only about 10 or 11 minutes long, of Sue Ane Langdon. And we're going to hear part 2 of the video that we did back in 98. So if you're watching it, you're going to get to see her on stage. If you're just listening, I think you're going to enjoy it just as much. So let's go into part 2 with Sue Ane Langdon over at the Mayberry Squad Car Rendezvous in Bradford, Ohio.
What parts did you do in the office?
And that's another thing with my career. You never know really when it's me in that. I had on a dark wig in both of the Elvis films. I was in Roustabout, I was Madame Mijanou, the fortune teller. Yeah. In black hair, right? And in Frankie and Johnny, I was Mitzi, I was the snitch. I was the one that told Ellie Mae, Donna Douglas, that Johnny was playing around with Nellie Bly. Yeah. Again, I had a black wig on until we all wore the same color pink wigs. Everybody saw all these Elvis pictures and knows what the heck I'm talking about, right? No. but those Elvis folks. So now do you know? Picture it with black hair, right? Okay.
Go home and watch it after I get leave.
Good.
I got the film.
Julie Adams later on played the part of Nurse Mary Simpson.
I think there was another Nurse Mary. I don't know why would they do that? Make two of us named the same, but I think there was another Nurse Mary because I caught an episode one night. I said that's not me.
Well, usually the story that Andy tells in a case like that, he says back then when you did those shows, you had no idea they were going to run for 30, 40, 50 years. So you thought, well, who's going to remember that your name was Mary Simpson also?
You guys know you know more about this show than
but just think, somewhere every single day somewhere you're on television.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, so, it's probably pretty true. I did so many episodes. I was talking to Bernard, whom you'll be talking to here shortly, about we did a movie called Hold On. Do you remember with Herman's Hermits? There's another biggie, right? I was a redhead in that one. Anyway, but we were trying to remember. We thought we had done another show together, A Man from U.N.C.L.E. But anyway, so I've done so many that You're right. Probably there's somewhere I am on.
Absolutely.
If not in Bradford, on some other channel.
Well, they run the TNT runs Man from Uncle usually, but the only problem is it's like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, But sometimes I catch those, and I've seen you in Man from Uncle.
You can always use a VCR today. That's right. That's how I get. I have a fella that sends me episodes of. I have a library of almost everything I've done because I guess like the Mayberry folk and the Elvis folk, there's a big following for 60s and TV, and they just collect all the episodes of. They keep their VCRs on at 4 o'clock in the morning, and thank goodness they do because he sent me a lot of tapes, and I really appreciate that because. I didn't have, kept anything. I don't even think you could do that then.
You never kept any scripts or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a couple of scripts.
Scripts you kept, just for the sake of...
and I think I have, some of those things.
What was it like working on Bonanza? Now, there's one we haven't talked about today.
Oh, that was great fun because when I came to Hollywood, I had lived all over, like I said, lived in Ohio, lived all over the United States, as a matter of fact, when I was a kid. But the longest I ever lived anywhere was Texas. And I had a horse, and I rode, and I could shoot, and I had long hair, and I had good Texas accent. I could talk like that, or Southern or whatever. And so when I came to Hollywood, I figured I was going to do a lot of Westerns.
Yep.
And I could not land a Western. I mean, they were still, very big on TV until finally Bonanza, and I was so happy. That was really great. And Mike Landon and Gunsmoke I did from that. So I had a great time because I finally did it. I made a Western.
Now, the funny thing about Bonanza is the thing that always pops in my mind is Pernell Roberts left the show.
Yep.
Because was he basically kind of booted off the show, or do you know really?
We actors are kind of funny people. I guess when you're doing something, you don't realize how good it is, and
until it's gone,
I guess Purnell thought he should be doing something a little better than Bonanza, and perhaps he should have, but getting something else is not always easy to do.
But the funny thing is, it pops in my mind every time I think of Bonanza is he left the show and he was gone. And all the rest of them have passed on.
Yeah, really.
There's only one left.
That's how you live a long time. You leave a hit show. That's what happens, I guess.
Of course, he finally got Trapper John. So,
yeah, he came out okay in the end. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sue Ane?
Did you ever get to meet or work on an episode with Frances Favier?
Oh, no, and that's a shame. I thought she was so adorable. Aunt Bee?
Frances Favier,
no, see, I thought she was so darling. She was on that show, but I think, I'm trying to think if, just in a group thing at the end.
Right at the end, maybe she might.
I probably met her, which I can't really remember, only because when we did do that final thing at the end of the show, it was a big herd of people, and I never got to work with her, and she was adorable, just darling. I regret that.
Anybody else for Sue Ane?
That's funny because of the fact that I did do a lot of Sheldon Leonard and Danny Thomas and the Dick Van Dyke Show is what I was thinking that that was one of my favorites to do, because I did do a lot for that company.
Yeah, Nickelodeon runs those all the time.
I wish I could have done more on the Andy Griffith Show, but oh well.
Yep. Well, it's a wonder they didn't, really. I mean, just kind of like pencil you in as his steady girlfriend. I mean, I can see why they wouldn't want to marry him off, because then they can't come up with a bunch of different scripts. That's basically why he wasn't married, until later on. But it seems like he would have been a perfect candidate to get his girlfriend.
There's a book, which I'm not that good to get into a big long explanation because most of you probably have the book. If you don't, find what's it called, the Andy Griffith Show by Kelly. The guy's name is Kelly. I had a great time shooting that show. I really, really did, and we had a lot of fun. And like I told you, I adored Don, and Andy and I seemed to get along just fine until one day. And again, at some point in time, it was different, and then because they had told me it was possibly going to be a recurring role, and obviously it wasn't. And all these years, I could never figure it out. And all the shows I did with Sheldon Leonard and Danny Tallis, and we knew Danny. We used to go every Christmas to his house. Nobody ever told me why I didn't play that role, and I finally found out why. Here a year or so ago, by reading that book by Kelly, and the explanation is, and in that I have the distinction of kissing Andy Griffith. You notice he didn't kiss, I don't think, hardly many of the other ladies ever. Not too many. Andy, okay, just briefly, in the book it explains, which I didn't know, Andy has kind of a thing about women. I don't understand that either, but Sheldon also said in this book, this is what I read in the book, that they had trouble writing for women at the time that I was on the show. So, get the book. It may explain why I didn't do that regularly. That was the first eye-opener I had, many years later.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else? Like to ask Sue Ane a question? Down here.
Oh,
Van Dyke Show, the episode you did. Can you remember which one it was?
Yeah. Yes, I do definitely remember the one it was. It was called One Angry Man, and I played Marla Hendricks, and I think I was an exotic dancer or something like that, and I'm accused of being a jewel thief, and Dick is elected to jury duty on my case. And he thinks I'm innocent, and we kind of exchange looks, and one time I drop my hanky, and he reaches for it, and he falls out of the jury box, and I think that was really one of the really high points of my career. I loved the Dick Van Dyke Show. I think he's one of the finest talents that has ever been produced. I think he's a dear man. He was on recently. They did a special thing on last year, and they used that thing of him falling out of the jury. And then he goes and sits in the defendant's chair. That is so funny. He goes and sits and looks up at the judge. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Gets back in the jury box. He's wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Somebody down here had one for Sue Ane? Any other questions for Sue Ane?
Any more on the boom bass? No. Okay. Thank you all very much. Come say hello.
Thanks for being with us. We'll be signing autographs here in just a little bit. Sue Ane Langdon, everybody.
Oh, there we go. We had some scenes in and around the Mayberry Squad Car Rendezvous. If I said it was a Mayberry in the Midwest, it was not. This was Mayberry Squad Car Rendezvous back in 1998 was when this video was recorded. So there we have it. Sue Ane Langdon. She would have been 62 years old at the time of this. She just turned 82 back on March the 8th. So that was what inspired Randy to do his report on her a week ago. So, all right, guys. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. It's really neat to me to see these old videos and these old interviews that we've done with the cast members. I found a whole box over here full of old 8mm film. I think I told you last week. I got all this 8mm film, and I'm going to be trying my best to convert it. Now, the other guest stars at this particular event were Sheldon Golomb. And he was Opie's friend, Arnold Bailey. He went by Sheldon Collins, I believe it was his stage name. And Bernard Fox, Malcolm Merriweather himself. So we'll be hearing from them in the coming weeks. The man that was interviewing her, that you heard his name or heard him talking there during the interview, his name is Dennis Hasty. And he was the host. He was one of the hosts of Good Morning Mayberry that was on Cincinnati radio during that time frame. So Dennis is he's still active with the Mayberry folks. We still hear from him from time to time. So Dennis, thank you for your part in getting the interviews done. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun for me because I had been doing Floyd for maybe about 4 years by this point. When this was recorded. So it's kind of neat to me to see, because I'm actually watching the video version of this, to see myself as Floyd and to wonder how in the world was it that I ever got to keep doing Floyd. When I see myself doing it back then, I'm going, oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I can't believe he did it like that. Yeah, I can't believe it. So... So when I see that, it's just funny. All right, guys, we got one more bit for you tonight, and this is always a treat about from Randy Turner, and we're going to hear this week about the Dillards. So we're going to let Randy take it away. Here it is. Take it away, Randy.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by special correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
The legendary bluegrass band The Dillards first appeared as the Darling Boys in the Andy Griffith Show on March the 18th, 1963. While the band known at the time as the Country Boys had appeared in 2 episodes during Season 1, the Dillards, as part of the Darling family, headed by Briscoe Darling, appeared in half a dozen episodes over a span of 5 seasons. The Dillards were made up of brothers Doug and Rodney Dillard on banjo and guitar, respectively, Dean Webb on mandolin, and Mitch Jane on the upright bass. In 1963, the band was already performing their bluegrass wizardry, though struggling financially after a recent move to the West Coast. After being heard by a talent scout for Elektra Records, the band had just been signed to a recording contract when, unbeknownst to them, writers Jim Fritzell and Everett Greenbaum had just written a script titled The Darlings Are Coming, which called for the services of a bluegrass band to play the Silent Brothers. Dick Link, Andy's manager and an associate producer on the show, saw the small article in Variety announcing that the band had just signed with Elektra and brought the band in to audition. After playing songs for about half an hour for Andy Griffith, director Bob Sweeney, and story consultant Aaron Rubin, they were hired on the spot. The Darling Boys had a sister, Charlene, who was infatuated with Sheriff Taylor during her first appearance. Charlene was played by Maggie Peterson. At the end of the episode, in a scene often missing in televised versions, Andy, as Justice of the Peace, married Charlene in Dead Wash. The episode also marked the only time any of the boys were named during the black and white years. While the script and their individual contracts gave all of them names, only 2 names were spoken in the episode. Mandolin player Dean was called Ward in the script, but was instead called Other in the actual episode, when Charlene reminded Briscoe that he had forgotten Other when the other family members entered the Mayberry Hotel via a piece of rope tied to the radiator. The name was switched to Other as a nod to makeup supervisor Lee Greenwood, who was also a banjo player and whose middle name was Other. Doug was called Jebin by Charlene when she thought he shouldn't be playing his banjo so late in the jail cell. After immediate positive fan response, the Darlings appeared again just a few episodes later when the crazed mountain man Ernest T. Bass insisted on courting Charlene, not satisfied her marriage to Doug counted, since Andy was not a preacher. They returned twice more in Season 4, though without their beautiful sister in the episode when Briscoe declared for Aunt Bee, and appeared again in Season 5 to find a mate for Andelina, the new child of Charlene and Dud. In their final series appearance in Season 7, their only appearance in the color episodes, the boys were called by the actors' real names. The band returned one last time in the TV movie Return to Mayberry. The Dillards' appearances as the popular Darling Boys helped bring bluegrass to a wider audience. In the mid-1960s, the Dillards were among the first to add electric instruments to their performances, setting off what came to be called the Newgrass movement. That progressive bluegrass movement fed into the folk rock movement of Southern California to produce country rock. Bands such as the Eagles and the Byrds have acknowledged the Dillards as major influences. Elton John did the same and used the band as his opening act on his first concert tour of America. The band members did not do much additional acting, instead concentrating on their music. Doug did appear as a banjo player named Clem in the Robin Williams film Popeye, and Rodney appeared as a guitar player in the TV movie The Return of the Beverly Hillbillies. Both Doug and Rodney appeared as country band members in the Bette Midler film The Rose. Mitch passed away in 2010, and Doug passed away in 2012. Rodney still performs and is a frequent guest at Mayberry events, such as Mayberry Days. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening, and remember to take Andy's advice and go out there and act like somebody.
All right, thank you, Randy. Now, if you want to make sure you don't miss any of Randy's reports, you can email him at turnersgrade@gmail.com, and he'll make sure you're aware of anytime he posts something over at the Gomer and Goober Pile Comic Book Literary Guild. There you go. I actually said it. All right, folks. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed Randy's report. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Sue Ane. And I want to encourage you, we talked about it a little bit last week, to head over and support the Mayberry documentary that is being, they're trying to raise money for. It's called The Mayberry Effect. They're raising money over at Indiegogo. I think currently they've only raised about 5% of their goal, which is about $1,600 nearly. But the Mayberry Effect is a documentary by Chris Hudson, and it looks like it's getting some traction and things, so that's good. But we need to go over there, and if you'd like to support him, and as you support him, you'll be able to pick up, I guess, what is it called? Rewards, perks. They call them perks. And so the more you donate, or the more you support him, the different perks you can get. You can get Mayberry pennants, pins, badges. You can get copies of the DVD when it's released. There's all kinds of cool stuff there that you can get over at Indiegogo and support him there. So anyway, as I said last week, I am biased about this because I'm actually in the video. So, I want to see it, but he's already finished it. He's working on it as a project for his master's, I believe, that he got. So he's already done that part, but he wants to add about 30 more minutes to it, and music from the Andy Griffith Show, clips from the Andy Griffith Show, things like that. And he needs money to be able to do it. So if you're willing to do that, head over. There's links in the show notes for this episode, number 470, and you can help support. And if it's already past the time when it's going to come out, you guys can go and get a copy and see how it goes. So, folks, I think that is all I have for us tonight as part of the actual podcast. So I want to thank you for coming here and being part of the show and being here with us. Folks have been writing and calling in. I want to thank you for that. I've seen people leaving messages on Facebook and over at YouTube. It's always great for me to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. So if you can give me a call at 888-684-8415, you can tell me what you want to tell me. If you don't want to do that, you can email me at floyd@imayberry.com, or just drop by one of the websites. Drop by twochairsnowaiting.com and click the contacts button. That's probably the easiest way. Folks, it is always great to have you. Don't forget to head over to Weaver's and check out some of the cool new stuff they got. It's awesome. I love them. I love the shirts. By the way, one of them is a Pink Floyd shirt. Oh, my goodness. How can you miss out on that? WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time right here on Two Chairs.